Y'all really thought I was gonna forget about baby girl Gorgon over here, which actually I really don't understand the whole attraction to Gorgon that everybody has, because sure, you have characters like Jalter that are like, oh, I don't like you, I'm gonna burn you to a crisp, but secretly she likes us deep down. Gorgon actually just wants to eat us. Like, even in her interludes where you're supposed to be getting to know her very well, at the end of the day, she's like, no, I still hate you, and I'm gonna eat you eventually. Like, you're gonna get killed by me. So I really don't understand it unless you're into like Yonder Haze, maybe. I really don't understand the whole appeal to Gorgon, but hey, she's on Raid Up, so I figured I should talk about her, and she is immensely popular, so we'll talk about if she lives up to that popularity as a servant. But if you enjoy FGO videos, I upload these every single day, and all I ask for in return is a like on the video and a subscribe to the channel. But if you're feeling extra feisty, you can click that join button and become a channel member. But before we dive into this video, we actually have a very interesting sponsor in today's video. We have Loot Cakes over here, which is a really interesting service, right? Because basically what they do is that they reward you for paying money in all of these mobile games that we play. So whether you play, Dokkan Battle, Fate Grand Order, Dragon Ball Legends, whatever you do, you basically sign up for Loot Cakes, link your Google Play account to the website for whatever game, and then as you spend money, they kind of track the data and give that to the companies, and that's how they make their bag. They're tracking the spending habits of all the players, but your reward for spending money is that you get points that you can then use to get like GameStop gift cards or iTunes gift cards or Google Play gift cards, to get even more quartz and everything, right? So it's very cyclical, right? And it's very interesting because you're almost being rewarded in a way for spending on games that you're already going to spend on. And, like, you can even make these clans over here. Like, I have this alliance for Fate Grand Order, and it's almost like a communal thing. So you guys can join my alliance, and as we all spend money on the gacha and FGO, we'll all actually get points back to then buy even more Google Play cards to then go even deeper into the gacha. So it's almost like the Google Play point system, right, where you get an additional benefit for spending money. They're actually giving you something extra and letting you get more gift cards and getting more points back for actually spending money on stuff that you would already do anyway. And if you sign up using my link down in the description down below, Loot Cakes is going to put you in a raffle to earn a $25 gift card that you can spend on any mobile game you want. Now, I would recommend Fate Grand Order because, we got the anniversary coming up on both games. So, click that link down in the description, sign up using my link, and you'll be entered for that. And that's going to be a nice, a bout of multi. That can actually guarantee your GSSR if you enter that and you manage to win. That's actually going to guarantee that you're able to pull on the guaranteed 5-star banner for free. So, I actually see that as a huge win. I'm getting sponsored by a very interesting service, and one person will get their GSSR for free, and I think that's really cool. So, go sign up for Loot Cakes down below, click my link, enter into that raffle, join my alliance, so as we all spend money on FGO, we all at least get some points back. But with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into Gorgon. Thank you, Loot Cakes, for sponsoring this video. But back to talking about Gorgon, who has a very special place in a lot of players' hearts. Not just for the fact that she's basically Big Medusa, but she's an Avenger, which is already a very small class. And this is going to be a lot of people's only, or at least their first Avenger. And, they want her to be very good. And in that merit, Gorgon's not bad. I will go ahead and just get out ahead of this video and say that if you summon on this banner, when, say, King Hassan and Caskill are out as well, because you're just trying to grab one of the three, I think that's probably going to be the best value you can get, because I really can't justify somebody summoning specifically for Gorgon unless they really, really just love the servant, right? Which, I mean, we kind of already talked about. There's people that go crazy for Gorgon. So if you're one of those people, just go ahead and go summon for Gorgon. But other than that, I would recommend maybe just doing your multis, doing your summons when King Hassan and Caskill are on Raid Up as well. I mean, King Hassan's the only 5-star, so he's always on Raid Up. But look out for those specific days where Caskill is also on Raid Up, because as I talked about it a few days ago, Caskill is also insanely good and adds a lot of value to a lot of players' boxes because he's a premium art support. Well, quote-unquote premium art support, where on like NA, he doesn't have a whole lot of competition, right? Like Tamamo, I guess, is the A1 art support right now on NA, but not a lot of people have Tamamo, do they? So Caskill's a premium art support, deal with it. But enough stalling, let's go ahead and talk about Gorgon's hits, which, considering how old she is, her hits actually aren't all that bad. I know you see that NP charge per attack at 37%, and you're like, ooh, that might be a little bit of a yikes for me, but remember that she has 5 hits on both of those arts cards, which means if you get an arts crit, you're going to be genning a metric ton of NP back. Just off the merit that she has so many hits on those cards, especially if you can like overkill with some of them, you can really refund a decent chunk of Gorgon's NP back, which I think is grossly overshadowed because people see that 37% and they're like, she ain't going to be genning any NP back. But I mean, with 5 hits, she actually can, as long as you're getting crits. And, you know, she is a buster servant. I always say the buster name of the game is to do crits. So as long as you're fronting those stars for her to play around with, she should be able to get those crits on those arts cards. Unfortunately, her quick card's not going to be doing her any favors. It only has 3 hits with 6% star gen, so, you know, don't rely on her to do her own star gen. Although I will say, unfortunately, she is an Avenger, so her star weight is quite low naturally. So as opposed to someone like Jalter, who can suck up those stars for herself and then, you know, just get arts crits to refund her NP, Gorgon's going to struggle a little bit. And you'll actually see why with her first skill. Now, hold on, before we get into that, 5 hits on the extra attack means that Gorgon's an A1 servant, supremely goated, just had to get that in there. But starting with her first skill, the buff that she gets is actually pretty good, because she had the worst version of Monstrous Strength, where it just gives her a 50% attack buff for 1 turn. Personally, I feel like Monstrous Strength is at its best when it's giving you like the 40% for 2 turns, because then you're getting a massive attack buff that you can utilize for 2 turns. This was more in line with just like a mana burst for attack, which honestly, I'd prefer the mana burst because it's equipping the cards to do even more damage, and it's actually buffing a lot of their base traits as well. I guess for Buster Servants, it really doesn't matter all that much, technically. But I'm, of course, just speaking in general here for Monster Strength. If you're going to give like 50%, I'd rather just have like an Arts Mana Burst or a Quick Mana Burst on those servants. But they actually did improve the skill quite a bit, because it stays at 50% attack, but it lasts for 4 attacks that last 2 turns. So they actually made this quite cracked, because that means you get a full Brave Chain of 50% attack for Gorgon, and you can split that up in between 2 different turns. That's already very good. The unfortunate thing, but also somewhat fortunate, is that they then increase the star weight of her buster cards by 600% for 1 turn. Again, this is all on a 5-turn cooldown, which is fairly decent. The uptime is going to be fairly low, but it is a decent skill, so you might be able to give it somewhat of a pass. But the reason I say it's unfortunate is that you're going to be taking those stars away from those arts cards, which are really going to be necessary to help Gorgon get arts crits to then refund her NP. So taking those away to her buster cards, yes, is going to mean she does really big buster crit damage, especially if you like slap her together with someone like Merlin, but it is going to take away from her effectiveness to be able to loop her NP. And unfortunately, Gorgon's NP is actually pretty good. You actually do want to be firing it off, but we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Let's get on to her second skill, which is her like survivability slash big damage skill, I guess. It's a Guts that lasts for 5 turns and revives her with 3k HP. Keep in mind, the skill is on a 7-turn cooldown, meaning you can essentially have this Guts active pretty much at all times. The uptime for the Guts is very high. That's something I really do like to see because it gives her decent survivability. And then she also gets 50% crit damage for 3 turns. For reference, that's the same crit buff that Waver gives. So if you need a little bit of a reference point for how much crit damage she's getting, that's the same amount. It's also the same amount that Jalter gives to herself as well, so that's actually pretty good crit damage. And thankfully, these effects don't cause any conflict with one another because it's a Guts that lasts for so long. You can pretty much just pop this whenever you want to do crit damage and not have to worry about wasting the Guts, because it'll just sit there for 5 turns, and, you know, just hopefully you didn't need it for that 2 turns that it was down. But all in all, again, another very good skill. I'd argue this one's probably built a bit better than the first one, but again, I am kind of being tough on the first skill because it's taking away stars specifically away from the arts cards, which you kind of would want. But again, we'll get to her NP and we'll see where they try to kind of patch that up a little bit. Her third skill, this is actually something that I think is really good and unique to Gorgon. She has a 105% chance to stun the entire enemy party. But this is actually like Gorgon's specific Petrify, not just stun, which means it actually bypasses stun resistance and stun success rate up. So basically, outside of someone just having like mad magic resistance or something, you should be fine to petrify the entire enemy party, which is really solid. I don't need to say that that's really good, because like Shuten Doji does that as well. Although Shuten Doji has the added effect of charming the entire party and lowering their defense. As long as we slap something like that on Gorgon's third skill, maybe just give her like a 50% buster buff for like 3 attacks, or lowers all enemies' defense by 20% or something. If the stun is successful, it lowers their defense by 50%. Something along those lines to like modernize this skill. I think if we do that, it makes Gorgon's kit pretty solid overall, because you have the monstrous attack buff, you have really good crit buff. She's just not suffering from like some weird 30% crit damage. 50% is a decent amount. Again, Jalter has that. That's what Waver gives. That's a decent amount of crit damage. She has an AoE stun, which is super good in challenge quests. It also adds another layer of survivability. So let's say your guts is down, you actually still have the chance to survive because you can stun the entire enemy party. The only thing that's a bit whack is that she's drawing the stars specifically to her buster cards. I don't really like that because I would like it to be more fluid, like I could go to her arts cards. But again, I gotta look on the other side that's going to contribute a lot to her damage. Because at the end of the day, she's also a buster servant. And if she's not out here doing big busty crits, then, you know, what's the point of her being a buster servant? I'd also like to note that she's an Avenger, so she has like all the godly Avenger passive skills. You know, if you flick Gorgon just very ever so slightly, she gens 4 million% NP. She also has passive NP regen. Very good stuff. But let's talk about that NP that I was talking about. Now, the overcharge, not all that impressive. Like, it's doing the curse shenanigans. That gives her some utility with Van Gogh, maybe, if you want to try to pair them together. Because people really don't seem to understand that Van Gogh is nuts. I'll talk about her again later when she goes back on Raid Up, but she's insane. Don't underestimate Van Gogh. But her having curse damage might give her some utility with her. And she only has 3 hits on her NP, so she's not going to be generating like a ton of stars. She's not going to be like an Emiya or an Iskandar or a Raikou. The thing that I think is so good and shows that they tried to rectify her not being able to get arts crits as easily is that she charges the entire party's NP gauge by 15%. And that's not nothing. That's pretty good. I wish it was 20%, frankly, if I'm going to be honest, because 20% is a bit more well-rounded. You know, it synergizes with like charismas and a lot of like K-scopes and everything. It allows for a bit better team comps, but it's still not nothing. The only thing that's unfortunate is that she could have been kind of like Artoria, where it's like a buster servant that can basically loop their NP in the right conditions if they bumped this up to like 20% and they made that star weight just go to all of her cards in general. But I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, they're not going to backtrack and be like, oh, it's just general star weight now, because it kind of defeats the purpose of them buffing that first skill in the first place. So what's the final verdict? Gorgon's definitely good. She's not bad. To me, she seems like one of those servants that people forget about and they don't really know how good she is because nobody really ever touches her. Nobody really uses Gorgon. Because again, her competition's very stiff. I mean, Jalter's an Avenger, Dante's is an Avenger. Like, that's your single and AoE Avengers covered right then and there. Space Ishtar also comes out and basically dominates the Avenger class, especially when Caster Artoria comes out to basically fix any and all problems with Space Ishtar. Then you have Big Ushi, who's just a supremely powerful single-target Avenger. Mao Nobu is decent after her buff. Salieri's also an AoE Avenger, but he's more accessible as a quote-unquote, free-to-play servant because he's a 3-star. I mean, basically, shouldn't everybody have NP5 Salieri? As long as you rolled on that extra class banner, you should have, like, NP27 Salieri, like, let's be honest. But the general point is that she has very stiff competition, and while she's not bad, she just seems like kind of a generically good servant, and that's good. I mean, you want to be, like, at least generically good, because that still means you're good, at baseline. But she just seems to get forgotten about, and if you really like Gorgon, again, go ahead and summon on this banner. Do keep in mind that we're going to be moving into Summer 3, then Summer 4, Anniversary, Scotty, Raid Up, Space, Ishtar. Just make sure you know. Again, I'm going to give you the same spiel every single time. Just make sure you know what's coming up after Gorgon. But if you really like this character and you really want to summon for her, then go ahead. If you're kind of on the fence, like maybe you don't have an Avenger, maybe you missed the godly Salieri Raid Up, and you're just lacking in this Avenger department, maybe try to summon, again, when like Caskill's also on Raid Up. I usually don't recommend people doing that because then it splits the Raid Up chance and actually gives you a lesser chance of pulling either of them. But Caskill is also such a boon to so many players' boxes because he's so good as an art support that honestly at that point, if you get either of them or King Hassan, God forbid you pull the 5-star, then you're pretty much going to get a quality servant no matter what, unless you just get some random servant that's off Raid Up, like Sanzo pops up and it's like, hey, what's up, man? You're like, well, she's good, but I wasn't expecting Sanzo to pop up. Well, that's basically my advice. That's my coverage of Gorgon over here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, don't forget, click that link for loot cakes down in the description to enter yourself into the giveaway for that $25 gift card. Again, that is basically going to cover your GSSR if you can win that thing. So, like, I think it's supremely good for you guys. I thought it was a super ballin' sponsor. It was timed super perfectly for the anniversary. So, smash that link, smash that like button, smash that sub button, smash everything, alright? And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace late, guys.